if you have any questions, we've got a smaller group today. If you have any questions at any point, just shout out, and we'll see what we can do to help answer those. Obviously, today we're talking about the holistic analytics solution, which can also be called a corporate analytics solution. It's basically what we see as the best way to help companies pull together their data from different areas to actually solve some of their problems. And to kick this off, we have this lovely quote from an article I read recently. Data lakehouses is what management consultants design, build, and deliver, using PowerPoint slide decks, inflated voices, and incoherent explanations. The reason we have this in here, one of the biggest issues we've seen in analytics and data in the last 10 to 15 years has been data lakes, which have now been shifting into cloud data storage. These ideas that if you pull everything together into one area, it'll magically solve all your problems, when in reality, people are spending 30, 40, 50 million to pull all this information together, and they're wondering why it's not actually doing anything for them in the end. So we're going to talk through a bit around that, but also better approaches to doing that. To start with, though, Michael's just going to run us through where we are.
Here we are. All right, so we've been doing a number of webinars over the past, let's say, month or so. This is a repeat of the holistic analytics one that we did last week. As we know, a few people couldn't make it. We started with marketing, we did customer analytics, and we're channeling towards a series of actioned webinars that we would like to do to help people, obviously, dealing with what we're all dealing with, which is COVID-19. And so we're going to move towards a webinar series that's going to start next week. That's going to be looking at how to basically set yourself up with your data for success as we go through the various stages of what we're going to basically recover business as we go through that. So we do have an idea on top of that I'd like to discuss. If you can go to the next slide, Taz, as well. So one thing we're looking at doing is going to be basically a workshop on remote work. So there were a number of ideas that this has been put to us from utilities. Actually, have been the primary people that have been talking to us about this. I think if you understand that a utility, of course, is effectively going through a forced transformation when it comes to working from home. There's a lot of pain associated with that transformation. And of course, where there's pain, there's opportunity. So the Holistic Analytics team is currently in the process of building a framework and a construct around how we can help a business effectively understand what the forced remote working is doing to their organization. And then also, I think, provide a way to value both their short-term problems and also their long-term strategies against that forced transformation. So to keep with the utility example, because I believe that's pertinent and maybe easy for us to understand, is whether it's decentralized energy generation, outage management, or digital metering strategy, or a number of other ways that you would look at doing this. There's an interesting opportunity to potentially map out how this change in your organization and how this overall influence of remote working has exacerbated silos and/or potentially maybe helped in the lens of those kind of long-term goals that you're working against. So this is a TBD event in terms of what we're doing at Holistic Analytics. It's going to be probably within the next few weeks, and we'll be posting on LinkedIn with a lot more detail and rigor about the procedure.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, so some of the questions that people have asked, what do we have to fear? Obviously, just fear itself, which is completely fine. One question we got last time, which we thought was really good, was what is the difference between a data strategy and an analytics strategy? We'll go through this in a bit more detail as we go. But essentially, the way we see a data strategy is if you're building a building, the data strategy is making sure you have all the bricks, all the nuts, all the rivets, everything else where you need it, when you need it. The analytics strategy is how you're actually going to use those things. So to continue with that analogy, the analytics strategy would be the blueprints you get from the architect. If all you have is a data strategy, all you have is a bunch of material laid out nicely with no idea of how to use it. which is why we think every business needs to have a business strategy first, then an analytics strategy, and then a data strategy following that. Another question was curious to know where exactly analytics will best fit for electricity industry life cycle point of view. The person that asked that isn't here at the moment, but if they jump in, we'll get some more clarity for them. When we're talking about this is a huge topic. Most companies will have a CDO, a CIO, a CTO, someone in the C-suite trying to tackle this kind of issue. The majority of the time, they're talking to a large consulting firm who is selling them a piece of software. That piece of software will take 3 to 5 years to roll out, will cost X million dollars. And by the time it's finished, the CIO or the CTO will have left the company most of the time, and the company will have no idea what to do with the actual system they've had put in place. We've talked to a few companies. One company we talked to is doing a 15-year transformation, which probably isn't feasible for most companies. Another one we talked to had done, they brought in a data lake, which cost them $30 million in 5 years. They realized they couldn't use that. Now they just built a cloud data solution, which has cost them another $30 million in 3 years. And they're starting to realize they don't know how to use that either. So this is a massive issue for a lot of companies, and how we can actually better use this is a really valuable piece that needs to be talked about. The view we have here is we need to move away from data and more towards solutions. We need to establish an analytics-driven culture, not just a data-driven culture. As we were talking about in the analogy before, it's that shift from a focus on bricks to one on buildings. And every solution that you're building in terms of analytics or data needs to be people-led, not tech-led. So every company you talk to at the moment generally is giving you a tech-led solution. It's here's a program, here's a software, here's a system we have that will solve the problems you have without knowing the exact problems you have, without knowing the people you have, without knowing the capabilities you have. So when we're going through these things, the takeaways we want you to have is that things need to be people-led, not tech-led. A lot of you will have seen a message similar to this in your businesses. The CEO, after something bad has happened, maybe after years of good growth, and then there started to be a decline, they don't know why. The CEO has come out with this knee-jerk reaction here. We'll shift our budget from marketing into digital marketing. Enterprise sales team will get all their priority over the customer services team, just because Hank from enterprise sales told me they were killing it. We're going to install a CRM, and that's going to take care of all of our problems. And anytime there's a sale that's close to the end, you have to CC me in it, put all the information in the email subject line, because that's how I'm going to organize my day. There's a couple of ways to deal with these kind of emails from a CEO. My preference has always been to call out bullshit in the meeting when the CEO sends this kind of email. That's a terrible idea and really limits your career in that company. There's a bunch of other ways people have gone about dealing with this. Anytime I see this kind of message, it just rings alarm bells for me. It tells me the company is being not led by data, it's being led by gut feel. It can't justify the actions it's taking, and it's about to run into trouble if it's not already in trouble. Through the presentations we've given so far, we've broken things down in this way, and this is not just a marketing or customer analytics play, but if you're talking about how customers are coming into your business, they start through communication activities, brings them in. Once they're in your funnel, you can use customer analytics, but any touch point after the funnel is where holistic analytics comes in. So this could be improving things internally for you, or it could be improving things for your customers. The key behind holistic analytics is it helps you combine information across the business to improve your long-term profitability. And we use profitability there, not revenue, because every company generally wants to turn a profit or make their lives easier. And why we think this is important now is there's been a literal explosion in data. It doubles constantly. I think the rate of doubling increases each day. It's certainly a lot faster than the coronavirus or anything else. In order to deal with these kind of issues, your business has reacted by buying tools, software, automation. We've talked to companies who've said they don't know where their data is. They've got 5 different systems to use it, but it's okay. They're getting AI in to help solve the problem. These kind of solutions are getting sold into a bunch of companies that have no idea what they're doing. And all they're doing is rinse and repeating the same thing. They're changing their tools, they're changing the people. They change the initiatives, they try and change the culture, and when that doesn't work, they go back. They try and change the tools, they try and change the people, change the initiatives, change the culture, and all they're doing is repeating that same process without actually getting anywhere. And this is why we think it's really important now to bring a people focus to analytics rather than just a tech focus. Obviously, we've ragged on not necessarily Salesforce, but CRMs and companies like it. We've also ragged on a few other things. Welcome, Shiva. And these are some of the issues why the McDonald's CMO regretted, his biggest regret was flushing $3 million down the toilet in Salesforce. I don't know if you've been to McDonald's recently, but they didn't get my name or my email address or my phone number or really have any reason to contact a person on an individual focus. But I will still manage to sell them to them. There's all these different reasons why CRM implementations fail. It cost HP $465 million in damages for selling in a false CRM to a company. And one of my favorite quotes here by Gartner, they predicted that through 2018, 90% of deployed data lakes will be useless. And that word useless is really important there. It's not, they're not delivering the kind of ROI we expected. They were absolutely useless. They got no value whatsoever out of it. Companies can spend between 3 to 30, 40, $50 million rolling out another lake, and they might not actually get any value out of it whatsoever, which is obviously a massive concern and should be for most businesses. The reason people actually bring in these kind of solutions, though, is to try and break down silos in a business. Any company you work in, you're dealing with silos, whether it's between sales and marketing and the rest of the business, whether it's between logistics, if you're in a utility, it could be between transmission and the people who are actually working on the cables day to day. There's a range of silos that exist in a business. Depending on how the business is structured, these silos can become a lot worse or a lot better. And each of these solutions are targeted at breaking down those silos, but each of these solutions try to do so in a tech-first fashion. They don't really understand what needs to happen with the people behind them. They don't understand what the actual issues are. All they're saying is this is a system that brings data together, and if all of your data is together, all of these issues will disappear. And as you would have seen, this is not the case for any company. One of these, there's a few kind of different ways people take these traditional approaches. When faced with these kind of problems where there's massive silos in a business, one approach is cry in a corner and hope someone else fixes it. Tried it a few times, it's not been terribly effective. Another one is to just acquire more businesses and ignore any issue. You see this a lot with retail groups where they just keep purchasing new companies and they're only getting a fraction of the value out of those companies they should because they're not combining the information they have and none of their systems talk to each other. Another one is get more systems and hope some of the old systems fall away. There's always a really strong sales point for somebody like Salesforce. The idea is that it can help you remove a lot of your legacy systems. We've seen this attempted at a couple of government agencies recently, and those government agencies are being forced to still use COBOL at this point, like they're the NORAD program in the US or something. CRM implementation, as we were talking about there, another attempt at fixing these. Manual processes on top of manual processes on top of manual processes, really, really popular workaround for businesses. It's a great way to get rid of staff. Not a terribly great way to run your business or fix this problem. And the more traditional one is building a data lake, getting all your structured and unstructured data together into one spot, and then suddenly, magically, something will happen with it. It's just that last part where something magically needs to happen with it that people generally fall apart. And there's a range of issues with these problems, or with these approaches. One of them is that they generally take a long time to roll out. The time to value, as we saw before, where there was absolutely useless implementations done, the time to value is infinite. For others, it can just be a really long time to value and even a really long time to delivery. So you can be talking about 5 years before you get the project delivered. And even then, you're not seeing value straight away after those 5 years. A lot of the times, these things are implemented with no strategy. So the idea is this will fix all our problems. There's no strategy of what to do with it afterwards or during. In terms of analytics, there's no direction for what to do there with the information you've now gathered and that you've put in one spot. And all of these problems combined give you high turnover and staff frustration. That ends up going back to the customers, going back to your stakeholders, whoever it is, and ends up with a nasty place to work. To help kind of, I guess, visualize these a bit more, we've created company ARG, and I've worked at a company like this. I'm sure a lot of you have before. The CEO or GM always gives you directives on gut feel without giving any basis for why those decisions are being made. Marketing team always has high turnover. The IT team's investing in a data lake, which they seem to have been doing for the last few years. The service team keeps making deals and offering discounts to keep clients without realizing the value of those clients anymore. Employees spending half their time emailing each other or doing basic admin, slowly going crazy. There's new corporate initiatives every quarter that come out and just fail again and again and again. It's a company that performed brilliantly for years, and because it did, it never dealt with any of these problems. So when a bad time comes because there's a competitor in the market or there's a global pandemic, they don't know what to do. And they've got no path forward to actually fix those problems. And of course, they've just bought a new technology that will solve all these companies' problems. So this is the framework we'll be working with going forward. And we've got these three people to help you understand this company a bit more. Rachel, the CFO, she's constantly hiring contractors every quarter to try and understand what's going on with reporting. It's costing her more money, and the risk for each report is higher and higher and higher. Anna, the CMO there, she's got the kind of haircut you get from a CMO. She's got a vision, a great vision for marketing the organization. She just can't get understood priority around what needs to be done, and everyone in her team just repeats what the agency tells them, but can't justify why they need to spend $1 million on an influencer to sell their latest product, which is a water meter. John, the customer service rep there, every time he gets a call, he's just having to apologize and make concessions to existing customers to renew their business. He doesn't understand who the customer is. When they call, he can't understand straight away if they've had a complaint before, what they've been doing with the business, how long they've been with the business, if they're a good customer or a bad customer. All he knows is what the person's telling them at the time. He doesn't have the systems required to access what he needs. So we've gone through that fairly quickly, and going forward in the next half, what we'll talk about is the approach we're taking to this and the approach we're seeing a lot of other companies taking at the moment to this, and how this affects different people in the business. But for now, we'll just slow it down a little bit and take any questions. And just to help prompt those, we've got a question for you in the audience, obviously. And that's with the advent of, the uptake of remote working becoming a lot more required in businesses at the moment. Has this made the siloed nature of information you work with better or worse? So has remote working made silos in your business more apparent, or has it made things a bit easier for you? I think you're all on mute at the moment, but feel free to unmute and shout out, or if you're more comfortable, just type something in the comments.
Thanks for the presentation. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep, thanks, Babak.
Hey, Babak.
Hey, just a quick question about the whole structure of the solution that you are providing. So you mostly talked about the problems, not the solution.
Yeah, just in the second half.
Yeah, I know, but so the thing is, so most of the industry, so I'm working in the utility industry, so I know that they know their own problems, but they don't know why they have that problem. This is the main problem, you know. So the first question is, so we've got a heap of other BI platforms that if you go to them and say, okay, so we've got this, we've got that, so they would say, okay, this is another BI platform. Okay, we know. How your solution is different from those guys out there that they provide that kind of business intelligence systems, and we already experienced that, and they couldn't solve our problem. So that's the main question that I have. That is, so if you present the solution, so that solution should simply saying that we solve your problem better than the other platforms in this way. Yeah, so I don't know if you're going to discuss that in the second half or or not. So that's sorry. So that was probably an early question.
That's all right. Yeah, we'll talk through that and how we go about doing that in the second half. But I guess to give you the cliff notes, or the too long didn't read. Essentially, we are not a platform. We're tech agnostic when we go into a company. And to use the Henry Ford quote that I absolutely hate, he said that, you know, he didn't talk to customers because if he did, they'd only say they wanted a faster horse. But that's asking the wrong question. If you ask the customers what they want, it was to go faster. And then there's a range of ways to deal with that.
Yeah.
So if you ask a customer in a utility what they want, it might be, I don't have access to this information over here. And one way to solve that historically might have been a BI tools being built and implemented. Whereas in reality, it's just a way of sharing the data that they need, when they need, how they need, rather than giving them another thing, another tool they need to click on, another thing they need to follow through. So it's going to the heart of the problem for the people, rather than just saying, this BI tool will connect data across your business and give you a pretty graph to present it in so you can see how it works. So it's trying to create a solution that people in the business can actually use themselves, that they can understand and that they can own going forward.
Right.
Not something they need to hire more people to maintain and keep going with.
Okay. So we will probably find out exactly what's going on in the next half of your presentation.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
Babak, thank you for the question. I think another way of thinking about the word holistic, you know, we have our company. What we are doing, of course, we think is great. There are a number of people trying to do, of course, what we do as well. And as we go through this change, let's say, in how the world is working, I think that this is going to become a more popular way for us to think. I think the key differential to your point of why, so you say why these companies know they have the problem, like you said, a utility knows they have silos. We don't need to tell them that. I think the key issue of why is that the balance of initiative and investment has been too clunky and maybe too big, and is not delivering results at the right pace. And therefore, you have this repeated cycle of initiative failure. And so I think the holistic concepts are, we're going to get, you know, Taz will get to that in a second, but I think that's a very key point as to the why part of your question is they don't really realize that that's the fundamental potential way that they're breaking what they're doing. Do you mind if I ask you a question, Babak, about remote work? I know it's early days, I guess. Maybe what, three weeks for you, 4 weeks? Is this, I mean, do you have any initial feedback on how that's affecting your business?
Yeah, definitely it has had impact, but you know, so because my job is mostly engineering, so I'm at the sort of back end of the analytics and processing. So it has, for my job, has not, I can't say that has had I mean, a great impact on my job, but for other guys that are working, so definitely they experience that they can't access the data that is centralized very easy. So now they need other skills and experiences to talk to each other, to, I mean, access to the data. They need probably new platforms to understand actually exactly how to talk to customer, because it's another world now, another experience that, so you know, yeah, there are heaps of problems that we can think about if this kind of situation going on, but everyone is now thinking that this is a transition, so it's gonna just be solved very soon, something like that. But I imagine that it's a good experience that the companies understand their silos problem better at this time, because it's exacerbates the situation, and they understand that they really need some solutions to connect all of these silos together. If it goes on longer than this, but yeah, for my job, I can't say that has had too much impact on my job, but yeah, I can definitely see that this has impacted other people in the in the retail sector.
I think to just finish answering your question there as well, but the thing a BI solution might promise to do is connect data across the business. The thing it doesn't promise to do is solve the problem within the business.
Yeah.
So the problem people had wasn't the fact that data was siloed. Like that was the core source of the problem, but it wasn't the actual issue they needed solved.
Yeah.
It was their access to what they needed. So
yeah.
What we're focusing on here is solving that problem.
Yeah.
And by enabling the rest of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. That's correct. But the main question was, okay, before getting into real deal or business, so the business should understand exactly the solution so that they can get into any contract or any any deal with the provider of that service. So always, so they think that, okay, this is another platform or solution that we already experienced, and if you provide just a very tailored and proprietary solution, I imagine that you are providing that sort of service. So that would be probably something that again, they would say, okay, so at the end of this process, we understand what is happening, not at the beginning. And this is a risk. So we have to go through that, and we have to then understand that what is happening. And then at the end, again, maybe 50-50, that if we get that result or not. So we don't understand from the from the beginning. So, so this is a sort of ambiguity that is around these kind of solutions always.
So the approach we take in dealing with these problems is we do a sprint zero up the front. Part of the sprint zero, we talk to stakeholders across the business, understand what their problems are on an individual basis. Then we synthesize all that information and create an analytics roadmap. So in order to tackle that problem with the analytics roadmap, we will say something like, in 2 months' time, we will solve problem X. We'll do that by connecting data Y 1, 2, 3. And once we've solved that problem, I will give you the proof of concept. You can test it, you can use it. So you get the value after that amount of time. And then problems B, C, and D can build on top of that solution. So you're building this roadmap of solution after solution after solution and allowing them to build on top. So it's not a matter of we don't know where this is going. It gives you a clear roadmap of where everything's going, what you're getting at what points, and how it's being done.
Right. Okay. So that's a business model is actually ensures the client that it's going to work. Probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it lowers the risk concept that you mentioned. I think it lowers the commitment risk concept for sure. It makes it small, basically. Yeah.
Actually, it guarantees the result.
To a certain extent, yeah.
From the beginning.
Yep. Because you know exactly the problem you're trying to solve. You know exactly how you're going to go about solving it. The only question that remains basically is what data you're going to use to solve it in the most efficient way.
All right. Fair enough.
Cool. Any other questions before we start jumping through?
I was going to nominate Taz. We have Shiva had come on, and I believe Shiva's with us. That question from the beginning about the electricity industry life cycle was asked. Was that correct?
Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
Just want to clarify that question for us, Shiva.
Sorry?
Do you want to just clarify what you meant by that question?
No, as you said that, where exactly in the business, business process, they'll be having different sort of business process will be there, like Babak told, like in utility industry. So where exactly the analyticals will come into play, like from the start, like if you take a project in electric utility industry, can analytics can be applied to that, or like in operational mode, or like and where exactly it will be beneficial. I just want to understand where exactly the process come into play.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess there's two kind of approaches. If it's a new project, we'd always build our analytics in at the front of that. And the way you do that at the bare minimum is build a test and learn system around it.
Okay.
So this is the forecast you have, this is what you expect to do, this is what you expect to get. If you don't get this, we believe these are the reasons why, and we can test that and measure it as we go through. The other perspective, if things are like BAU or just already happening, we try and look at analytics from the top down. So we look at it from a corporate level, from a C-suite level, and how it can flow down to the rest of the business there to try and solve those problems.
Okay, and just add to Babak's question, he's got the practical experience and he has seen and like he talked about, already there is some problems in the utility industries and they know what exactly the problem. If anybody don't know how to solve these problems, and you will get into the picture and how exactly you will be doing, saying that no, we can solve the problem, and the decision makers are whosoever going to take your technology like for the implementation, how you convince them, like saying. So already Babak told that no, some tools are there and they're working out, but that they couldn't get succeeded. So how exactly you differentiate with that with yours?
Yeah, so I think we kind of covered that with Babak, but I'll go over it again. So we're completely tech agnostic. To start with, we try and use whatever tools the business actually has themselves. So we're not trying to sell in a new tool or a new program. We're trying to use what you have to actually solve your problems. But the way we go through that is we talk with all the stakeholders, understand their problems, help rank and build out those problems, work out what the value of each problem is, and then we build a roadmap to help solve those problems. So you might have a big problem that might take a year to solve, but in that before then, you've got 12 other problems that you can actually solve, and in building each of those solutions, you're actually going to get to that end result to solve that much larger problem that you want. So the way we try and build out solutions for businesses is we look at where quick wins are available, where we can build solutions that build on top of other solutions. And as you're going through, you're constantly proving the value of each solution you build and rolling it back into the business, enabling them to do it themselves. And we'll cover a bit more of that as we go through. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was just gonna, I think we could push forward on that. I was just gonna make one quick comment to Shiva. I think another, to flip that real quickly on its side is we are a top of the business concept of analytics. And I think within a utility, you're gonna have analytics in all the different departments already. Like Babak was saying, you already have different things going on. So the procedure that we talk about here is not about necessarily changing any of those things per se, but it's about ensuring that we provide a path to solve problems while we connect sideways across those various tools that already exist. I think is another way of thinking about it. So
a bit more.
That's correct. Yeah.
So as we were just talking about there, what we try and do is involve all the major stakeholders whenever we do this kind of projects. This is where we start talking about putting people first rather than just putting tech first. By talking to all the people, you understand their challenges and ambitions, investigate the systems and data they use, because often in a company, people are using systems and data they absolutely should not be, and people aren't aware of that. Explore the pieces of information they wish they had. This can become really valuable, as a lot of the time that information already exists in the business. They just don't know that they can get access to it. Examine the touch points they have, both with customers and with data and with systems. At the end of each of those interviews, you always ask, what can this project do to help you? And just to your point there, Shiva, this actually really helps you get buy-in from the stakeholders as you're doing this, because suddenly this is a solution that can help them, not just a random solution that might help somebody else.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So this approach we call human-centered analytics.
Yeah.
So obviously when talking with these three different stakeholders, Rachel, she was able to talk about the conflicting information she had across the systems, the fact she needs a single source of truth. Anna has a range of problems she wants to tackle as a business, but the biggest issue she's facing is sales, who keeps complaining about the leads coming in. She's got no way to prove otherwise. And John just wants to know who he's talking to when he's talking to a customer. So when we do this kind of thing, we try and find common problems. And to Michael's statement just before, most of the times we find analytics is done down in a vertical, not across a business. When you're looking at these larger problems, though, you'll find that the problems actually exist through each vertical. So if you can solve it across the business, the value you're going to get out of that for the business is a lot higher. It also means you need a lot less technology. There's less tech debt. There's less cost. There's a whole bunch of other things you can save money on through there. Another easy thing to do with finding common problems is highlighting that data that already exists to those that need it. So sometimes there's a solution that doesn't require any work whatsoever. It's just the fact nobody's been able to talk to each other. And the other thing we need to do with anything we do here is put an ROI on everything. So every single thing we do, any solution we suggest, it needs to have an ROI. So how much is this going to cost? When are you going to get value back? And what is that value going to look like? Is it going to be a clear saving? Is it going to be increased revenue, increased profitability? Make sure that's explained and understood across the business using consistent terminology. So the different perspectives from this, Rachel wants to know the truth about all financials across the business. Anna wants to know the true customer journey. And John wants a true full picture of the customer. So obviously the common issue there is they don't trust the data they have. And they could have told you that from the start, but now we know the problems they're having, the overall arching problem, and how we can solve these going forward. Next thing you need to do, and next part of our approach, is to build that analytics roadmap as we were talking about. It's vital that the analytics roadmap is tech agnostic. As you've already said, within your companies, you have a bunch of BI tools, you have a bunch of other tools being used. So why would just somebody come in and say, you need to buy this other new tool to solve these problems? Look at what the company's got, look where you can leverage it, and as much as you can, leverage any system they already have in place. As part of the analytics roadmap, each of the solutions need to be iterative. And so that means each solution needs to build on top of each other. If you're doing this, the amount of time you're saving and the amount of value you're building with each new step becomes exponentially greater. You need to show value each step as well. So this is what we were talking about before. Within 2 months, 3 months, you'll get this solution. This solution will give you X value. The payback period will be Y. After the next 3 months, we'll build on top of these three other solutions. The payback will be X. The value will be Y. And keep each step short, no longer than 3 months. The reason we set 3 months is that's often when the financial reporting is being done. So it sits nicely with the way the company's running. But also people get bored real quickly. And if you can't start showing value quickly, people will start asking questions and move on to the next thing. So if you want to keep your stakeholders involved, you got to keep it short, sharp, and punchy. So after the analysis was done, Rachel was able to see the large value gaps in the organization. Through using one of the dashboards, we're able to get value quickly in there and show common data points across systems. Anna was able to get some value quickly, again, from another visualization that showed the full customer journey. This was able to highlight to her the drop-off points. So she was actually able to push back on sales and say, no, the leads were fine. The drop-off comes after you start engaging with them. And John was able to quickly get some value by seeing all the customer data in one spot. So whenever anybody called up, he was able to type in their number and knew everything he needed to know about them. A rating system was also created for John to help him understand how to approach the conversation with each client he was talking to, whether they were high value, low value, and what he could offer them. The next thing you need to do after the analytics roadmap is build and roll out proof of concepts. So the human-centered analytics approach kind of brings in a bit of agile, a bit of lean, a bit of human-centered design. It brings in all these concepts from around. And one of the really powerful ones is the proof of concepts. So in order to do this, you determine the data you need to solve each problem. You create a proof of concept solution. You test it with users within the business. You work out how to roll this out within the business, and that's really important. There's no point building a solution for solution's sake. You need to build something that can actually be used by people in the business. You prove the ROI of each proof of concept as you roll it out, and then you enable the business to use it. Enablement's really, really important for us, mostly because I get bored doing the same thing again and again and again. But also I don't believe a company should have a consultancy in there just solving the same issue again and again and again. It's a waste of money for them and there's no value in it. So we want every solution to be able to roll out to the business, teach them how to use it, how to build on it, how to repair it, how to improve it themselves. And then with that solution, you build the next proof of concept on top of it. You've already started to connect together some of the data you need, so you can build on top of that information and only bring in the information you need when you need. This also means if you're building out a cloud solution, it's going to become a lot cheaper and a lot more efficient. Once you do all of this, you've created this change via emergence. So as you're going along, people can see the impact, people can feel it, people can touch it, people can control the impact as well. This will build your confidence and will gain you believers in the organization. So after doing this, Rachel was able to hone in on major problems in the systems. She was able to ensure she had consistent reporting, and her dashboard told her where that didn't exist. So she was able to change those in the teams and in the business. Anna, now that she understands the customer journey, she's changed her marketing mix. She's able to get more of the segment she's identified will complete a purchase and more likely to renew, and smooth over issues with sales. And John was actually able to provide comments on the scoring system, and the business was able to update it themselves, make his workflow easier and his success rate greater. So the business is already able to start taking on the solution themselves and build on it. And the next thing you need to do is link it up and back continuously. So again, enable, enable, enable the whole way through. Make sure the business is on board, make sure the business is capable, able to take that solution and able to go through with it. And any solution you build, you need a feedback loop. The first iteration of a solution might solve 60% of the problem. So the next iteration might get 70%, next iteration might get 75%. You'll essentially at some point hit a returns curve where there's no point iterating on it any further. And at that point, you can move on to the next thing. There's some companies we've talked to where they've spent 8 years building the same propensity model. That's just a waste of time and money. They might be getting a 0.01% improvement each year. They've got the resources in the wrong spot. So you got to know when to move on to the next thing. But until then, create that feedback loop so you can keep improving and improving. And now, after doing all that work with the company, we've got to company R. So this is what we believe the gold standard for a data-driven company looks like. They've actually got an analytics strategy in place. More people believe in it every day as they can see how it improves their time at work. Decisions are made with data and are more transparent. Notice we don't say all decisions are increasingly made with data. Some people will still go on gut feel, other things you won't have enough data for. But where you can, every decision that you can is made using data to help justify it, help improve it, help measure it. Profitability is improving. Employees are spending less time doing admin, more time doing higher value work. Employee engagement and retention is going up. And there's new creative uses for extent data, which continue to be discovered. So the next step from there is, as we said, enable it, feed it back, build it up, build it up, build it up. If you're a customer-focused business, once you've done holistic analytics, you can tie that back to your marketing analytics, which you can tie back to customer analytics, which you can tie back to holistic analytics, and just create this feedback loop. If you're not a customer-focused business, or if all you've done is the holistic analytics part, you can just create that feedback loop again. The idea is combining as much information as you can, when you need to, in order to build that greater, smarter, better business. We've gone through that last bit really quickly, but we already covered a bit in the original questions. Was there any other questions off the back of that? And did that cover off what you were asking before, Babak and Shiva?
I was going to make the comment. Thank you, Taz. Just real quick, we are just being cognizant of time. We've got about 5 minutes to go. I was going to make the comment to Babak about the change via emergence, and I can send you notes on that maybe offline a little bit. But if I was to put in one sentence to answer your initial question of why are these companies failing, or why potentially is the utility still struggling, I think because they're not following that concept of change via emergence, which is basically building up the right pace of success stories versus trying to invest in very large systems.
Yeah, that really, makes sense. One of the, so in my industry specifically, one of the new emerging things that I think probably your solution can target is the customer segmentation, which is happening in the retail industry. So I'm not sure how probably your solution may target that problem, but we are seeing a lot of new retail system. I mean, new business retail business or small businesses, startups that starting in this category. So they target actually a specific portion of customers in the industry, and sort of steal those customers from big businesses, like the business, for example, I'm working in, because they know exactly what sort of customers they are, based on the data that they are getting from those customers. For example, a customer has pool pump, another customer has solar system, another customer is a commercial business with a specific within a specific category of consumption. So they can sort of identify those customers based on their data, and then provide some solutions to those customers so that they can grab those customers, and sort of steal those customers from big businesses. So that's one of our applications that I've always I've been thinking about. Just I saw one business in US. There was, I think the name was Bijli or something like that. Do you know that business? BIBGLEY, something like that. So they provide a solution to utility industry, with the name of that is, they have put a interesting name on that, hyper personalization. So that's a hyper personalization. Again, means that we simply categorize your customer based on the data that we are getting, not even from your database, but from the whole profile of the customers, sometimes free information from Facebook, Google, and stuff, and then put together all of that data, and then categorize your customers, that what sort of customer this guy is, and what sort of customers the other one is, so that you can provide the specialized solutions to those customers. That's one of the things that now utilities are looking for. I think Origin Energy, I think, is in get in touch with those guys in US for that sort of solution. But I see that this solution spreading out probably very fast, but the utility industry are looking for that sort of solution. If you'll
see that start to fall apart in about a year's
sorry,
time.
I didn't get it.
You'll see that solution start to fall apart in about a year's time.
I think
so hyper-personalization is something that Meaty's been trying to do for about 10 years now. A lot of the data collected relies on old GDPR or pre-GDPR regulations, and old PR regulation. In Australia, it's much harder to pull together that data. You can at the moment using third-party cookies and a few other things, but access to those is actually falling away end of next year. So after that, get that one-to-one personalization will be a lot more difficult. But you can still use a whole bunch of the information you can collect from the customer, and we've done this with utilities before, to create better segmentation to help them understand their customers better. So we've worked with a few utilities doing this, and it was amazing. They didn't know who a valuable customer was. They didn't know what the cost to serve a customer was. So yeah, there's, from a marketing perspective, there's that hyper-personalization you can do, which again will begin to fall apart soon enough. But there's a whole lot that a lot of retail companies just aren't doing at the moment with the information they do have, which should be a lot easier.
Yeah.
I think that sounds like a bit of an internal versus external kind of maybe solution on the hyper personalization issue. I think to the point of we can send you some information after this that we have on YouTube that's on just this issue. But the key segment here is finding behavioral segmentation correctly using the data that you do have access to, versus using demographic data, which is potentially short-lived or only gives you a short return on the investment. And I think that is a whole nother fun can of worms that we can open up. But I definitely agree with you, Babak. In the first place, is I would have I'll be very surprised to to hear that this is not maybe being used more frequently for retailers, because it does feel like there's an awful lot of ability to better understand and target your customers. Definitely agree with the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. That's really a big opportunity. I don't know finally how they're going to solve that, but there are heaps of data available that it's unutilized, and finally, so customers in the electricity sector are very selective at the moment. So it was not the case in the past 10 years ago. So you wouldn't switch from this company to another one. So all were almost same, but now they are very, very different. So customers now understand the different services, understand the different business models across the industry. So they easily switch from one provider to another one, and keeping the customer happy across the retail business is now a very, very key point for the business that I'm in now. I know that, for example, Red is a traditional business, so they can't say to customers that we can do this, we can do that. They simply say, for example, the ultimate solution that provide to customer, they say, oh, we've got this discount, we've got that discount, nothing more than that. And customers no more interested in this kind of plans that just provide discounts, because they know that ultimately there is no free lunch. So finally you have to pay for all of those things, and in terms of discount, all are same. So they are now have started to looking for some real solutions that even just a couple of those guys out there that you can provide, and it is based on absolutely data, not discount and all of those fakes. So what I'm saying is finally the solution is very important. If you guys could provide, to provide a clear solution to utility and say we can use this or that, or our solution to provide that sort of service, that would be eye-catching, I would say, for the utility industry.
Thank you.
Yeah. Customer experience has been a really important thing, not just in utilities, a whole bunch of areas recently. Utilities are almost a grudge purchase, kind of like health insurance or car insurance or anything else.
Yeah.
It's something people have to have. So you've got the two pieces of customer experience. So one is you want to make it as easy as possible for people to join. But once they've joined, it's how do you make that experience good for them? A lot of the times you'll see with the energy retailers is they'll have electricity and gas. So people will have electricity and gas for the same company, but they're getting two separate bills. The two parts of the company don't talk to each other whatsoever.
Yeah.
So if you can solve that, that's a really easy, nice customer experience fix that no company's doing.
Yeah.
A lot of that's fencing and other things, but just little touch points become really valuable, especially, as you say, in times like this when it's really easy to change provider.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
No, it's very, very good input. Thank you for that. I mean, I think that I already have some interesting ideas that we could do just off that feedback. So thank you very much for that. And I think your comment that it's eye-catching, I think, is always very interesting too.
Yeah. If you look at the Beachly website, so you get the idea that what sort of activities they are looking for in Australia. So they could get some contracts and from the big guys, from Origin and other guys who looked at. The other thing that is coming up is distributed energy production, which is now there are heaps of data that is being produced by customers, and they are fed into the utility databases, but they don't know how to deal with those big data that is coming through, and how they use that to provide a service to customers. So the service layer actually is very important. They sometimes you simply tell them that we can, for example, solve your problems because you've silos, and we can integrate those silos and actually provide you a better understanding of your business. But primarily, they are, what I understand, they are looking for new services to provide to customers, but they don't know how to use the data to put together those data and understand what sort of service they can provide. So the main question sometimes is, actually you have to come up with the sort of service and then come up with the answer at both sides. Say that we create this service and we solve that solution for you as well. Actually, a question and answer both.
Yeah, it's a good point. No, yeah, and provide the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you could add up those layers to the solution, that would be very, very more attractive than simply saying that we can actually solve the silos problem. I don't know. This is my understanding, but yeah, at least in the business that I'm working on. So if you say that we provide a solution of integrating these silos together, I would say that the answer would be, oh, so there must be a big proof of concepts that you have done this, you have done that, and somewhere else in big businesses like AGL, Origin Energy, or whatever, and then we understand that, oh, your business model works. Yeah, this is the common answer to those kind of proposals. Yeah, but in terms of, if you come up with the big names in the service layer, because they already understand that concepts, they will be with you easily, because they already thought about that. They already understand what they were looking for, but they don't know how to do that. That's my understanding from what the problems that they are suffering at the moment.
Yep. Agreed. Tied together A to B to C to the final opportunity. Yeah.
So yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you for that input. I definitely agreed. I think our presentation here is kind of I don't want to say maybe general. It's our presentation here is kind of procedural or methodology oriented, but I think there's good opportunities for us to share stories to your world a little bit better. And I've already got a number of ideas I wrote down as to what we can do there, and I can email them to you. And I think for the group that you run, and specifically on the meetup, I think we can make a very direct kind of anecdotal story that would paint the picture of how this would be dealt with.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I think it'd be very, very, very acute to your exact industry.
Yeah. Of course, your solution is, I would say, fantastic, because I understand that, but I'm not sure that everyone in any industry understands that's as well, because it, of course, you're not providing an engineering platform or blah blah, that as Taz said, it is not a tech solution that you provide a software or something, but finally it is a very complex concept that so the customer, I'm not sure that customers, at least in my industry, they exactly understand how it works, but in other industries, I'm not sure. probably those industry or guys that have thought about that and have suffered the problem and now ready to absorb a solution, they are 100% ready to absorb this solution. But some industries maybe may have some problems to understand exactly how it works. Yeah, that's my perception from your presentation. But in general, I would say that it is fantastic because it is a solution based. It is not a tech based. It is not a. It's actually a journey from beginning to the end, and you guarantee the results. It actually reminds me of one of the solutions that a company actually offered us. It was a sort of energy saving platform. You know that there are heaps of people that claiming that, oh yeah, if you install our devices, this and that, so you save energy 30%, 40%, or whatever. But the business model was that everything is free. We install all of these CTs, all of these measurement systems on the individual circuits, aircon systems on the industrial appliances or whatever that you have, and then finally after a year, we guarantee that you save this much of energy. If you do, so you share the benefit from with us because we predict that this much. If you don't, so you don't need to pay anything.
Right.
And really attractive business model, and I understand that they could be able to get a heaps of attention.
Just to add to Babak, that's fantastic. You're getting free and you're showing them that you are getting these sort of savings. But the capital investment that is required for doing that work, that need to be foolproof, I think so, Babak.
Yeah, you mean from the provider point of view?
Yeah.
Okay, so they actually they were savvy, so they provided that solution to big businesses, so that the level of saving was $1 million.
Okay.
And the cost of actually the equipments and the
that's totally engineering. Maybe they have done everything and they know what exactly the equipment will produce. So that itself, they have assured that clear savings will be done after 1 year.
Yeah.
And it shows getting really good data from the stuff they've introduced as well. So there's probably a secondary market for them, even if they don't get by the company. It's using the internet from that.
Yeah.
And
Babak, whatever Babak told, now right now retail companies are offering only discount sort of thing to the customers sort of thing. If you get to know the details of the customers, what exactly their consumption pattern for every, like in a day, they will be having different sort of thing. If you study those things, and you can come up with other ideas to know them. So the apart from these, we can offer these sort of things as well. That in that space, your analytics will be of great use, I think so. Maybe Babak may be adding something to that. In just what I could understand from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the general discounts doesn't work anymore, so that's why heaps of new plans were available on the energy retail websites, and then the government decided to, the new scheme Power of Choice. I don't know you guys know about that. The Power of Choice is actually was targeting to solve that problem, that they forced the industry to shrink down all of those discount stuff and plans to a very simple plan, so that customer understand that it was a sort of scam, and it is a scam still, 30%, 40%. Okay, so if you are making if your margin is 40% or more than 40%, or less than 40%, how you provide a discount of 40% or 30%? It's not possible.
I think that it's been streamlined by default offer regulation, I think so.
Yeah, default offer is a new one. Anyway, it means that it doesn't work anymore. Discount is dead now, and they are actively searching for other solutions to understand the customer behavior and customer categorization, so that target specifically customer based on the proprietary solutions rather than a general concept of discount or something like that.
Yeah, you also need to have the right power generator. So it needs to be green power for certain customers. It needs to come from certain areas, certain types of power generation. So you're getting into all these other fields where you need to compete rather than just standard power generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys for your input, and thank you for joining us, guys. We appreciate your perspective.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. That's great.
Yeah.
I think we have an opportunity to, I mean, this was general again. I think, let me sleep on it. And then I think we have an opportunity to do a very much to those points you addressed. I think a very helpful one. And on the beginning of this, Babak, we talked about remote working, and we can talk offline about that too, but there's another opportunity there that maybe we can also do a presentation around silos and remote working for utilities as well. But thank you again.
Sure. Thank you,
Yeah, thanks.
guys.
Thank you. Talk.
Cheers. Yeah.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye all.